were never meant to be happy, and the pursuit of it is the reason you suffer. Read that again, slowly, because it contradicts almost everything you have been taught. Every advertisement, every self-help promise, every voice that told you the goal of life is to feel good has led you somewhere quietly destructive. You were handed a target that cannot be hit and then blamed for missing it. You chased a feeling that was designed to fade, and when it faded, you concluded something was wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You were simply given the wrong aim. Happiness, as the modern world sells it, is a mood. It is a pleasant sensation that arrives and departs on its own schedule. Indifferent to your effort, you cannot command it. You cannot store it. You cannot build a life on a foundation that dissolves the moment conditions change. Yet an entire civilization has organized itself around the hunt for this vapor, and the hunt has made people more anxious, more restless, and more dissatisfied than any generation before them. The ancient Stoics understood something that has been forgotten. They did not aim at happiness. They aimed at something deeper, steadier, and entirely within their power. They pursued a life lived according to virtue, and they discovered that peace arrived not as the goal, but as the consequence. The feeling everyone chases was, to them, a byproduct, never the target, never the master. This is not a lecture about thinking positively. It is the opposite. It is about abandoning a promise that was never real and replacing it with something that cannot be taken from you. It is about the difference between chasing a sensation and building a character. One leaves you exhausted at 50, still waiting for the life you were promised. The other leaves you steady, whatever the years bring. What follows will challenge the deepest assumption you hold about your own existence, that you are here to be happy. By the end, you may see that the misery you have felt was never a sign of failure. It was a sign that you were reaching for the wrong thing all along. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Trap of Happiness. Consider how the promise works. You are told that happiness waits on the other side of achievement. Reach the salary, and you will be happy. Find the partner, and you will be happy. Buy the house. Lose the weight. Earn the recognition, and then, at last, contentment will arrive and stay. So you run, you sacrifice years, you reach the thing, and the feeling comes, bright and warm, exactly as promised. Then within weeks it thins, fades, and disappears. And the mind quietly relocates the target further ahead. The house was not enough. The larger house will do it. This time, it will be different. It is never different. The Stoics saw this mechanism with unsettling clarity. The mind adapts to whatever it receives. Pleasure, once obtained, becomes the new baseline, and the baseline demands more to produce the same effect. A person who builds their life on this cycle is not walking toward fulfillment. They are running on a wheel that accelerates with every step. The faster they chase, the more the horizon retreats. Seneca observed this in his own wealthy, restless society. He wrote that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. The words are 2,000 years old, and they describe the modern condition perfectly. A person can possess more comfort than any emperor of the ancient world and still lie awake at night, hollow, wanting. The wanting is not a flaw in the person. It is the nature of the pursuit itself. Craving does not end when it is fed. It grows. Notice what happens to the emotion under examination. Happiness, as most people define it, depends entirely on external events aligning with desire. The weather, the mood of others, the outcome of a plan, the number on a screen. When these align, the feeling appears. When they shift, it vanishes. This means the person who stakes their peace on happiness has handed the keys of their inner life to forces they do not control. They have made themselves a hostage to circumstance. Every setback becomes a wound. Every disappointment becomes proof that life has failed them. Epictetus taught that some things are within our power and some are not. Within our power are our judgments, our choices, our efforts, and our responses. Outside our power are events, outcomes, other people, and the results of our actions. He warned that confusing these two categories is the source of nearly all human suffering, and happiness, defined as a mood dependent on things going well, sits entirely in the second category. To pursue it as a goal is to chase something you were never given authority over. It is to build your house on another man's land and wonder why you are always afraid of eviction. Think about how this plays out across an ordinary life. A person waits for the weekend to be happy, and the weekend passes too fast. They wait for the vacation, and the vacation ends. They wait for retirement, for the children to grow, for the debt to clear, always postponing the feeling to a future that arrives already spent. Years accumulate this way. A person can reach the second half of life and realize they have spent decades waiting to begin living, treating the present as a corridor to somewhere better. The corridor was the life. There was never a room at the end. This is the trap. Not that happiness is bad, but that it makes a terrible master. It is fickle, external, and impossible to secure. When you organize your existence around capturing it, you guarantee two outcomes. You will suffer whenever it is absent, and you will suffer again when it arrives and refuses to stay. The pursuit manufactures the very misery it promised to cure. The modern world deepens the trap rather than exposing it. It sells the feeling as a product and the absence of it as a defect. If you are not happy, something must be broken, and here is what to buy, watch, or consume to fix it. So the person medicates the emptiness with more of exactly what created it. More stimulation, more acquisition, more distraction. The wheel spins faster. The hollowness grows louder in the silence between purchases. The Stoic steps off the wheel entirely, not by rejecting joy, but by refusing to make it the point. They understood that a feeling cannot be a foundation, because a foundation must hold weight when the weather turns. And happiness holds nothing. It is the first warmth of sun that vanishes behind a cloud. To stand firmly, a person needs something that does not depend on the sun at all. That is where the real work begins. And it starts by seeing clearly what you are actually meant to pursue. Chapter 2. The feeling that was never the goal. If happiness was never the aim, then what were the Stoics reaching for? The answer sounds simple and lands heavily once understood. They reached for virtue. They reached for a life lived in accordance with reason and character. And they held that this, and this alone, was worth pursuing for its own sake. Everything else, including good feeling, was permitted to arrive or depart as it pleased. The goal was who you become, not how you feel along the way. This reversal changes everything. Most people treat their emotions as the scoreboard of their life. Feel good, and the day was a success. Feel bad, and the day was a loss. The Stoic treats emotions differently. A feeling is information, sometimes useful, sometimes distorted, but never the measure of a life well lived. The measure is conduct. Did you act with courage when courage was required? Did you speak with honesty when a lie would have been easier? Did you meet difficulty with reason instead of collapse? These questions have answers you control. The question of whether you felt happy does not. Understand the distinction the ancients drew. The Greeks had a word, eudaimonia, that is often translated as happiness but means nothing of the kind. It does not describe a mood. It describes a life that is flourishing, complete, lived well from beginning to end. A person could possess eudaimonia while grieving, while in pain, while facing ruin, because it was never about the sensation of the moment. It was about the shape of the whole. Translate eudaimonia as happiness and you smuggle in the modern error. Translate it as flourishing, as a life of virtue fully expressed. And the Stoic vision comes into focus. They were not chasing a feeling. They were building a life that would stand. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while burying children and fighting wars at the edge of the world, didn't write about pursuing pleasure. He wrote to himself again and again about duty, reason, and character. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Here was a man with access to every comfort the ancient world could offer, and his private instruction to himself was not to feel better. It was to be better. He understood that the quality of his life rested on his conduct, which belonged to him, and not on his circumstances, which did not. This is why the Stoic aim is so much stronger than the pursuit of happiness. Virtue is entirely within your power. No one can take your honesty from you. No illness can strip your courage. No loss can force you to abandon justice or reason unless you consent. While happiness depends on the world cooperating, virtue depends only on your own choice, moment by moment, to act as your character demands. You can be robbed of everything external and still, in the same instant, act well. That capacity is the one possession that cannot be seized. Return to Epictetus and his dichotomy of control, because it is the hinge of the entire philosophy. He taught that the wise person invests their energy only in what they govern and releases their grip on everything else. Apply this to the goal of life, and the modern confusion dissolves. You do not control whether you feel happy. You do control whether you act with integrity. So aim at what you control. Build your life around the choices that are yours. And let the feelings arrive as weather arrives, watched but not worshipped. The person who does this stops being a hostage. Their peace no longer depends on the world behaving. And here is the part that overturns the ordinary understanding entirely. When you stop chasing the feeling and start building the character, the feeling often comes anyway. Not as a mood you seized, but as a natural consequence of living rightly. The Stoics notice that a life of virtue tends to produce a deep and stable contentment, precisely because it is not dependent on external things going well. The person who acts with courage feels the quiet strength of having done so. The person who lives honestly is spared the exhausting weight of maintaining lies. The peace arrives as a byproduct of the conduct, and because it was never the target, it is not destroyed when circumstances change. This is the secret hidden inside the paradox. Chase happiness directly and it flees, because you have made it a master and staked your peace on things you cannot control. Pursue virtue instead. Aim at what is yours to govern. And a durable contentment tends to follow behind you like a shadow follows a person walking toward the light. The Stoics did not discover a trick for feeling good. They discovered that feeling good was never something to be pursued at all. It was something to be earned indirectly, through a life aimed at something higher. Consider what this means for the way you have measured your own worth. Every time you judged a period of your life by how happy you felt, you were using a broken instrument. The years you spent anxious may have been years of growth. The seasons of struggle may have forged the strongest parts of you. A feeling cannot tell you whether you lived well. Only your conduct can. And conduct is the one thing you can correct today, this hour, regardless of how you feel while doing it. The feeling was never the goal. It was the echo of a goal reached by a different road entirely. Once you understand this, a strange freedom opens. You are released from the impossible task of managing your moods and handed the far more achievable task of governing your choices. But before that freedom can take hold, you have to see clearly why the world around you works so hard to keep you chasing the feeling, and why it profits from your inability to catch it. Chapter 3. Why the modern world sells you misery. Now the question sharpens. If the pursuit of happiness produces suffering, why does an entire civilization keep pushing it? The answer is uncomfortable, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. Your dissatisfaction is profitable. A content person is a poor customer. An entire economy depends on you never feeling that you have enough. Because the moment you do, you stop buying the cure. Look at how the machine operates. Every message aimed at you carries the same hidden structure. Here is what you lack. Here is who has it. Here is what you must acquire to close the gap. The gap is the product. It must be manufactured before anything can be sold to fill it. So an industry exists to make you feel behind, incomplete, almost there but not quite. One purchase away from the life you were promised. And when that purchase fails to deliver, as it must, the failure is presented not as proof the system is broken, but as proof you have not bought enough. Seneca watched a cruder version of this in imperial Rome and named it precisely, "It is not that we have a short time to live," he wrote, "but that we waste much of it." The modern engine is built to waste it for you, to consume your hours in wanting, comparing, and chasing, so that the time which could have built a life is spent instead feeding a hunger that was engineered to never end. The tragedy is not that people are given too little, it is that they are trained to crave more, endlessly, by a world that grows rich on the craving. Consider the screen in your hand, because this is where the manufacture of misery has reached its highest form. You open it and you are shown, in an unbroken stream, the curated victories of everyone you know and thousands you do not. The vacations, the celebrations, the successes, the polished fragments of lives edited to appear seamless, and your mind, which evolved to measure itself against the small circle immediately around it, now measures itself against the entire world's highlight reel. You compare your ordinary Tuesday, with all its dullness and difficulty, against 1,000 strangers' best moments. And you conclude that you are falling behind. You are not falling behind. You are being shown a lie at industrial scale and asked to feel inferior to it. The Stoics did not have screens, but they understood the disease beneath them. They knew that a person who lives by comparison can never be at peace, because there is always someone with more. Envy, they saw, is a fire that consumes the one who carries it while leaving its target untouched. The modern world has taken this ancient poison and piped it into every waking hour, because envy drives consumption, and consumption is the point. You are kept perpetually comparing, perpetually wanting, perpetually one step behind an image that does not even exist. And notice the deeper trick. The same forces that sell you the disease also sell you the cure. And the cure is always more of what made you sick. Feel empty. And here is something to consume. Feel restless. And here is something to watch. Feel that your life lacks meaning. And here is a product that promises to supply it. So the person medicates the wound with the blade that made it. More stimulation to quiet the overstimulation. More acquisition to fill the emptiness that acquisition created. The wheel spins faster, and the faster it spins, the more it earns. This is why the modern person, surrounded by comfort unimaginable to any previous age, is so often anxious and hollow. It is not an accident. It is not a personal failing. It is the designed output of a system that requires your dissatisfaction to function. You were told that the pursuit of happiness was the path to freedom, and the pursuit was quietly converted into a leash. You chase the feeling. The feeling is kept just out of reach, and in the chasing you consume, produce, and comply. A content person cannot be sold to, so the world works very hard to ensure you are never content. Epictetus taught that any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Extend the principle. Any force capable of making you feel that you are not enough becomes your master, and the modern world has made itself a master over billions precisely by mastering that feeling. It does not rule through force. It rules through manufactured lack. It keeps you looking outward, comparing, wanting, buying, so that you never turn inward long enough to discover that the thing you were chasing was never out there to begin with. The Stoic response is not to rage against the machine, but to step off it, to see the structure clearly and refuse to play. When you understand that your dissatisfaction is being cultivated for profit, the cultivation begins to lose its grip. You start to notice the manufactured gap and decline to feel the lack. You measure your life against your own conduct rather than against a stranger's edited image. And slowly the noise that told you what to want falls quiet. Because you have stopped listening for permission to feel enough. This is the beginning of a dangerous freedom. Dangerous to everything that profits from your wanting. A person who no longer needs to be happy cannot be sold misery. A person who measures life by virtue rather than by feeling cannot be made to run on the wheel. But stepping off requires more than seeing the trap. It requires a discipline strong enough to hold when the whole world is engineered to pull you back on. That discipline is what the Stoics spent their lives building, and it is what comes next. Chapter 4. The discipline of not needing to be happy. Seeing the trap is not enough to escape it. A person can understand perfectly that happiness makes a poor master and still spend the rest of their life chasing it. Because understanding lives in the mind while habit lives in the body. The pull toward comfort, toward the feeling, toward the next small pleasure, does not weaken because you have named it. It weakens only through practice. The Stoics did not merely think their way to freedom. They trained for it, deliberately. The way an athlete trains a muscle that will not grow without resistance. The first discipline is the hardest to accept, because it runs against every instinct the modern world has cultivated in you. It is the practice of wanting less rather than acquiring more. When you feel the pull toward something that promises to make you happy, the Stoic move is not to reach for it, but to examine it. Do you need this, or have you simply been trained to crave it? Will this satisfy you, or will it become the new baseline that demands the next thing most desires? Held up to this light, reveal themselves as manufactured. They dissolve under examination. And each time you feel a craving and decline to obey it, the craving loses a portion of its power over you. You are not depriving yourself. you are reclaiming command. The second discipline the Stoics practiced sounds almost perverse to the modern ear. They rehearsed misfortune on purpose. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. And it is the exact opposite of positive thinking. Rather than imagining everything going well, the Stoic imagines it going wrong. He pictures the loss of what he values, the failure of his plans, the arrival of hardship, illness, and death, not to sink into gloom, but to strip these things of their power to ambush him. Seneca advised setting aside days to live as though disaster had already struck, to eat the plainest food and wear the roughest clothes, and ask, "Is this the condition I feared?" The answer, almost always, is that the feared condition is survivable, and a person who has already faced the worst in imagination cannot be shattered by it in reality. See what this discipline accomplishes. The person who pursues happiness lives in constant fear because they have so much to lose and their peace depends on keeping it. Every threat to their comfort is a threat to their entire foundation. But the Stoic who has rehearsed loss, who has already accepted in advance that everything external can be taken, has nothing left to fear. He holds his comforts loosely, grateful while they last, unbroken when they go. Fear loses its grip not through pretending the worst cannot happen, but through facing that it can and finding oneself still standing. This is why the Stoic does not need to be happy. He has made himself immune to the loss of the things happiness depends on. The third discipline is the deliberate embrace of difficulty, what the Stoics practiced as voluntary discomfort. The modern person arranges their entire life to remove friction. Every inconvenience engineered away, every hardship softened, every effort made optional. And with each removed difficulty, a layer of strength quietly disappears, until a person becomes so unaccustomed to discomfort that the smallest hardship feels unbearable. The Stoic reverses this. He seeks out the cold, the hunger, the effort, the tiredness, not as punishment, but as training. He fasts when he could eat. He rises early when he could sleep. He chooses the harder path when the easier one is available, because he knows that a will exercised against small difficulties grows strong enough to meet large ones. Comfort, worship, produces fragility. Discomfort, chosen, produces the kind of strength that no longer needs conditions to be pleasant. And beneath all three disciplines runs the deepest one, the practice that holds the others together. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate. It is the decision not merely to endure whatever comes, but to embrace it, to meet each event, however unwanted, as though you had chosen it. Marcus Aurelius returned to this again and again, reminding himself that whatever happens to a person has, in a sense, been woven into the fabric of things from the beginning. The Stoic does not waste his strength wishing reality were otherwise. He takes what is and works with it. The insult, the setback, the loss, the disappointment, each becomes material to be used rather than a wound to be nursed. This is the furthest thing from resignation. It is the most active stance a person can take, because it converts everything that happens, including the worst, into something usable. Notice what these disciplines have in common. Not one of them aims at feeling good. They aim at strength, at freedom, at command over the inner life. The person who wants less cannot be manipulated by those who profit from wanting. The person who has rehearsed loss cannot be terrorized by the fear of it. The person who chooses discomfort cannot be softened into fragility. The person who loves his fate cannot be defeated by circumstance. Because he has stopped fighting reality and started using it. And the strange result of all this training is that a deep steadiness settles into the life. A peace that the pursuit of happiness could never produce, precisely because it was never pursued directly. It arrived as the reward for aiming at something higher. This is the discipline of not needing to be happy. It does not make you cold. It makes you free. It does not remove joy from your life. It removes your dependence on it, and in doing so, it lets you finally hold joy without the terror of losing it. But if happiness is no longer the goal, and these disciplines are the road, then a question remains. What actually fills the space where the chase used to be? What replaces happiness in the life of the person who has stopped pursuing it? That is where everything the Stoics built finally reveals its purpose. Chapter 5. What replaces happiness? So you stop chasing the feeling. You step off the wheel. You train the disciplines. You release your grip on the things you cannot control. A question waits at the end of that road, and it is the one people fear most. If I am not pursuing happiness, what is left? Will I not be left cold, empty, going through the motions of a gray and joyless life? The fear is understandable, and it is exactly backward. What waits on the other side of the chase is not emptiness. It is the first solid ground you have ever stood on. The Stoics had a word for what replaces happiness, and it is not happiness at all. They called it ataraxia, a state of deep tranquility, an unshakable steadiness of mind that does not rise and fall with circumstance. Happiness is a wave that lifts you and drops you. Tranquility is the depth of the ocean beneath the wave, unmoved by what happens on the surface. The person who possesses it is not always smiling. They are something better than happy. They are steady. Storms pass over them and they remain. This is what the discipline was for. Not to make you feel good, but to make you unshakable. Understand the difference in your body, not just your mind. The happy person, when the good feeling is present, is bracing against its loss, even as they enjoy it, because some part of them knows it will fade. Their pleasure is shadowed by the fear of its ending. The tranquil person carries no such shadow, because their peace was never dependent on the feeling in the first place. They do not fear its departure. They can enjoy a good moment fully, holding nothing back, precisely because they are not clinging to it. And when the moment passes, as all moments do, they do not fall, because they were never standing on the moment. They were standing on themselves. This is the freedom the Stoics discovered, and it is why they were willing to pay the price of the discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote that nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and untroubled retreat than in their own soul. Consider what that means. He was not describing a place he traveled to, a comfort he purchased, or a circumstance he arranged. He was describing something he carried inside him, available in any moment, in a palace or on a battlefield, in triumph or in grief. The tranquil mind is a retreat that cannot be invaded, because it does not depend on anything outside itself. The person who builds it can never be made homeless, no matter what the world takes. But tranquility is not the whole of what replaces happiness. There is something more, and it answers the deeper hunger that the pursuit of happiness was always failing to feed. The Stoics understood that a human being does not merely want to feel good. A human being wants their life to mean something, and meaning is not a feeling to be captured. It is a byproduct of a life lived for something beyond itself. This is why the pursuit of pleasure always ends in hollowness. Pleasure is about you, and a life turned entirely inward starves. Meaning comes from turning outward, from duty, from contribution, from the recognition that you are part of something larger than your own sensations. Marcus Aurelius returned constantly to this idea that human beings were made for one another, that we exist to work together as the parts of a single body. He did not find his steadiness by asking what would make him feel good. He found it by asking what his duty required, how he could serve the whole, what a good man in his position was obligated to do. The paradox holds here too. The person who aims only at their own happiness rarely finds it, while the person who gives themselves to something worthy, a purpose, a person, a principle, a craft, discovers a fulfillment that no amount of pleasure could supply. Meaning is the thing the modern world cannot sell you, because it cannot be bought. It can only be built through a life aimed outward at something that deserves your effort. And notice what happens to joy itself once you stop chasing it. It does not disappear. It changes character entirely. The person who no longer needs to be happy finds that happiness, when it comes, arrives cleaner and lands deeper. A quiet morning, honest work, the presence of someone they love, a difficulty overcome. These produce a joy that the frantic pursuer never tastes, because the pursuer is always somewhere else, always reaching for the next thing, never fully present in the thing they have. The Stoic, wanting nothing more than what is in front of them, receives the moment completely. Joy stops being a thing to be captured and becomes a thing to be noticed. And there is far more of it. Once you stop hunting it, than there ever was during the hunt. This is what replaces happiness, tranquility that circumstance cannot shake. Meaning that comes from a life given to something worthy, and a joy made deeper by the very fact that you have released your grip on it. These are not lesser prizes accepted in place of the real thing. They are the real thing. And happiness, as the modern world defined it, was always the counterfeit. You were offered a coin that dissolves in the hand and told it was gold. The Stoics found the gold. It was never the feeling. It was the life beneath the feeling, steady, meaningful, and free. You were never meant to be happy. In the shallow sense, you were sold. You were meant for something the pursuit of happiness could never reach. And the misery you felt while chasing was not your failure. It was the ache of reaching for a shadow when the substance was waiting, all along, in the one place you were never taught to look, inside the steady, disciplined, outward-facing life that no one can take from you. Conclusion. What remains? When the chase ends, return now to where this began. You were told that the purpose of your life was to be happy, and you spent years obeying that instruction. And the obedience made you tired. You reached the things that were supposed to deliver the feeling. And the feeling came and went. And you blamed yourself for its leaving. But the fault was never in you. The fault was in the aim. You were given a target that no one can hit and then made to feel like the only person missing it. Every person around you is missing it too. The whole race is running toward a horizon that moves and calling the exhaustion a personal failure. The Stoics offer a way off the road, and it costs something real. It asks you to stop measuring your life by how you feel and start measuring it by how you act. It asks you to want less rather than acquire more, to rehearse loss rather than deny it, to choose difficulty rather than flee it, to love your fate rather than fight it. None of this is easy, and none of it promises pleasure. What it promises is something the pursuit of happiness could never give. Ground that does not shift. A self that does not depend on circumstance. A peace that the world cannot manufacture and therefore cannot take. Consider what you actually gain when you stop needing to be happy. You gain freedom from the people and forces that profit from your dissatisfaction. Because a person who feels enough cannot be sold the cure for lack. You gain freedom from fear. Because a person who has already accepted that everything external can be lost has nothing left that can be used to terrorize them. You gain freedom from comparison. Because a person who measures their life by their own conduct no longer looks to a stranger's edited image to learn whether they are enough. You gain freedom from the wheel. Because a person who wants what they have stops running toward what they do not. And you gain the one thing the chase could never deliver. You gain yourself, steady, whole, and finally home in your own mind, which no one can enter without your permission and no circumstance can burn down. This is the inheritance the Stoics left, written by an emperor who buried his children, by a statesman who was ordered to take his own life, by a man born into slavery who became freer than the masters around him. They did not write from comfort. They wrote from the middle of loss, exile, and hardship. And what they discovered there was that the good life was never about the absence of suffering. It was about who a person comes in the presence of it. Marcus Aurelius. At the end of a life that offered him every reason to despair, did not instruct himself to feel better. He instructed himself to be good, to act with reason, to serve the whole, and to meet whatever came without flinching. That was his answer to the question of how to live. It remains the answer now. So let the pursuit of happiness go, not because joy is unworthy, but because it was never something to be pursued. Let it arrive as it will, welcomed when it comes, released when it goes, and build your life instead on the thing beneath it. Build it on virtue, which is yours. Build it on discipline, which strengthens with use. Build it on meaning, which comes from a life given to something larger than your own sensations. Build it on the steady inner ground that the ancients spent their lives cultivating, and that waits, even now, for anyone willing to stop chasing and start becoming. The feeling was never the goal. It was the echo of a life lived well, heard by those who had stopped listening for it. The misery was never your failure. It was the ache of reaching outward for something that was only ever available within. And the freedom you were promised was real, but it was never where you were told to look. It was never in the next achievement, the next acquisition, the next arrival. It was in the quiet, disciplined, outward-facing life of a person who no longer needs the world to cooperate in order to be at peace. You were never meant to be happy. You were meant to be free. And freedom, unlike happiness, is a thing no one can ever take from you, because you were the one who built it, choice by choice, in the silence where no one was watching. See you next video.